Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the Real Collective podcast, where two guys are in over their heads. We got too much on the go, and we have no one to help us. This
Oh,
is the show
perfect.
where we are all totally fucked, and we're doing the best that we can to make it through and to help out the people around us. Kyle, how are
Just
you
just
doing?
keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Go. Dory said it best.
That's
Do
it.
it.
That's it. Yeah, we were just talking off screen about ongoing projects that we're both sort of dealing with, and how how things sort of sometimes get away from you, and what you can do and what you can't do, and the limitations that are around that. And it's just like, you know, all of the other commitments that we have, and then we also take on this other piece. Kyle's got kids, young kids. He's got step kids. I've got young kids, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, can you also? And it's like, we're both the kind of people, I think, that are like, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea, until we get into it, like, oh shit, we don't have the extra bandwidth for this, but we've already committed. And when you make a commitment, what do you do?
Can't go back.
That's right,
Just
you
do
see it
it.
through. See it through.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So life is full. How about that?
Hey, do your like, share, follow.
Oh yes, as
Forgot that.
always,
Forgot that.
hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends, follow, hit up Kyle on all of his socials, hit up me on all my socials. You can download the whole episode on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you're doing that. Thanks. If you're watching, you can see us on YouTube. You can also check out the buyer and seller guides below, or book an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. You can also get down below for a great deal on Magic Mind to keep your mind up to date, so you can take on these extra projects and still keep afloat, keep on swimming. The code is down there, collective 20. And there you go. How's that for all the housekeeping stuff?
Beautiful.
All right, perfect. We'll talk more about Magic Mind a little bit later on, but we're going to talk a little bit today about selling tenanted properties and the challenges that come along with selling properties that are tenant occupied. I've got a couple stories. I think, Kyle, you probably have a couple stories. We'll save the stories for the second half if we can, but try to talk in the first half a little bit about the mechanics of it, the mechanics of selling a property with a tenant that lives in there. What are the rules, regulations? What are the laws that govern tenants? And you know, how can you avoid it? Or if you can't avoid it, what do you do? So have you got some insight there?
Well, the biggest thing is that is the this it's gonna fall a lot more to the realtor than it is to the financing side. But the financing side of it, people have to understand, is that the word the word like I'm gonna or it will be don't exist in financing,
Mm.
right? I'm gonna work more hours. It will be empty. Does not play, and so the banks need real hard evidence that if you're buying a tenanted property and you're moving in there and you're financing it, and we'll say, just because this is where it gets complicated, with less than 20% down, that there's some proof to a degree. Like, they're not going to run and check, but they need some proof between documentation and the lawyers and the NOFs and all that, that the place is empty on closing. Because if it's not, they aren't going to release the money. And one of the major things to understand there too is, like, why would they not just release the money? One, it's a completely different deal. If it becomes a rental, even though your intention is to live there, but if you have to keep that tenant for a day, 3 days, 5 days, whatever it is, you can't buy it. You can't buy it insured, because with less than 20% down, because that's only for owner occupied. That pricing and that model is only for owner occupied properties. And currently, at the time of closing, it is not going to be owner occupied. So if it's 20%, and if it's 20% down, fine, but understand that rental interest rates are different than owner occupied interest rates. And the bank is going to ask for different things if you have a rental versus an owner occupied property. So the deal changes. So that's the toughest part, is manipulating, and I say that in the most legal way possible, but just how the deal, that's the wrong word, how the deal can change if the original agreement was that person's going to be out, we're moving in, and that person doesn't get out. Now you're in a different jam completely.
Yeah, I guess the sort of the sub header of this is, are you buying are you selling or buying a tenanted property because you want the tenant to stay there, or do you want the tenant to vacate the property and for you to take possession of it? If the tenant's going to stay there, it's pretty straightforward, right? Hey, I'm buying a place, I'm buying it as an investment property. The tenant's in there, they're going to stay there. The end. We know what we're doing on the way in. It's when we're getting into moving pieces where where the buyer says, no, no, I want to take possession. I want to move in there. That's my house. I want to live there. And then they have to say, okay, well, tenant, it's time for you to go. So the first thing that I will say is always check with a paralegal. This is not the world of realtors. All right. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, like putting things together, and the resident they don't teach us in real estate school anything about the Residential Tenancy Act. Not a thing. So there,
Huh.
the only way that we learn is by doing. And there are some realtors who work with a lot of tenants who understand the RTA. There are some realtors who are brand new who don't understand what the rules and regulations are with regards to tenancy. Thankfully, we've had a really good opportunity to sell a lot of properties that are tenant occupied. We understand the mechanics of how to legally displace a tenant who is who's living there for the benefit of the new owner who's intending to owner occupy. So there's a form that you have the tenant sign, right? So you sign either the I think it's the N12 or the N11. One says, hey, I'm the landlord and I'm telling you you have to leave in X number of days, right? I think that's the N12. And then the N11 says, hey, I'm the landlord and you're the tenant, and we both agree that you're leaving in this amount of time. So, there's a difference between the two. Okay. The form that says both people agree is solid, right? Because the tenant is signing it, saying, yes, I agree to leave. Normally that comes with a thing that's called cash for keys. You're not going to see that written anywhere. Nobody, it doesn't say in the RTA, oh, well, hey, you can do cash for keys. But a lot of times owners and tenants will come up to an agreement that says, hey, you know what? If you leave, you are going to be given 1 month of rent. That's the standard thing. Okay, someone's going to be buying this. They're moving in for themselves. Here's your 60-day notice from the start point of when your lease is. You're going to get an extra 1 month rent. You've already paid your last month, so you get a bonus extra month, and that's it. But if the owner says to the tenant, hey, look, I really want you to go. I'm trying to sell this. I'm having troubles. Now you cannot evict a tenant because you're selling. If you and the tenant agree to terms, i.e., hey, I'm going to give you this money and you're going to sign this form saying, yes, I agree to leave, you can have that conversation with the tenant. But it's a negotiation, right? And you can't kick a tenant out saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to, I'm gonna sell, so I'm gonna kick you out." Can't do it. You can't unilaterally make that decision as a landlord. You also can't, as a landlord, say, "Hey, I got to kick you out because I need to fix up the house." Sorry, you can do that. But if you do that, and yes, I did say do, you must offer the fixed up house back to the same tenant for the same price. And if
That
that,
seems, yeah, that's to me that's fair. Like, fortunately, unfortunately, right? I don't have a rental yet, but that's definitely I've always thought that that was just the right thing to do, right? I mean, I
hang,
get I
hang on a
get the
sec.
pricing thing. I
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
pricing thing. I'm just saying, but I
I
mean, who
think
am I?
I
I don't
think
have one
I
yet.
think you should. I think you if you're I think if you're the landlord, you should be able to charge the increased rent based on the cost of the renovations. But the problem is some tenants have been in a place since, I don't know, 2004, let's say 20 years, and the place has never been fixed up. And now and they're paying dirt cheap rent because they've been there for so long. And now the landlord's going to go in and fix it up, and then it looks better, and they're going to charge them the same amount. If I'm the landlord, no, thank you. I'm not doing that. Right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
that's not fair. Maybe it is, instead of, hey, here's the new market rent. Maybe it's the here's the cost of my renovations over a 25-year period, and I add that amount onto your monthly rent that you were paying before that, or something like that, like some middle ground. But it starts to get a little bit too messy, I'm sure. So they just said, hey, let's benefit the tenant. All the stuff in the RTA is a benefit to the tenant, more so than lender. So if you are selling a property and there's a tenant in there and you can get rid of the tenant, i.e. the tenant's on month to month, and you and the tenant can agree to terms that the tenant says, yes, I agree to sign this N11, I will be leaving at such and such a date, that will be your best scenario. You will sell your house for more money if it's vacant than if it's tenant occupied, because of the risks associated with a tenant occupied property. Now, if you can't get rid of the tenant and the tenant's still there and he says, no way, I'm not leaving, I'm not signing that form, no thank you, then the tenant runs the risk that somebody else comes along and buys the property and says, okay, I'm moving in, me and my family in, get out, here's 1 month's rent. That's the risk that the tenant's taking, right?
But is there not? But there's still that could be the end. That could be the end game, right? Or the final. Like that could be the end of it. But there's a lot of stuff that has to happen in between to make that work,
Yeah.
right? Like that's it's not just yeah, okay, you're out. There's still steps that have to be taken.
Yeah, I mean, there's paperwork that needs to be filed. So what happens? I'll walk you through what happens. A buyer buys a property and intends to move in, and it's currently tenant occupied. First of all, the tenants are required to receive 60 days notice from the beginning of their lease term. So let's say, for example, the lease term is the first of every month. Today is June 13th. If I was to give you notice today, it wouldn't be 60 days from today. So it wouldn't be August 13th that I could take possession. It would be 30 days from July 1st. So that means the earliest possession date for a new buyer would be September 1st. Okay, so the 60 days starts then, right? The first of every, or the first of the lease term. Assuming the lease term starts on the first of the month. Some lease terms don't start on the first of the month. Sometimes they start at different times. But from 60 days from the beginning of the lease term is when the notice must be served. The other thing that you should do if you're buying a tenanted property is you shouldn't close on that September the 1st, because what if something happens? You should really aim to close on September the 15th to give the owners a chance to go in and say, yeah, okay, you know what, the tenants are out. We're going to change the locks or whatever. We're going to do what we need to do. And then really the owner should go in and clean up after the tenants, because most of the time tenants don't clean up after themselves, and it's the owner's responsibility to deliver the property to the new buyers in that condition. Now, there is paperwork that needs to be filed. Okay, whatever the one was that the tenants and the owner both agree that the tenant's leaving. That's the N. I think it's the N11. The N12 is a piece of paperwork that says there is someone moving in here. It's me or my family member, my immediate family member, who's moving into this property. So here's N12. I am telling you that you need to vacate. Here's your 60 days notice. And here's a sworn affidavit by the buyer saying, yes, it is me moving in, or my uncle, or my child, or my parent, or whoever it is in the immediate family. It doesn't have to be the buyer. It can be anybody who's in the immediate family, and they are moving in because that is going to be their home. The tenant must leave, right? That's what the rule is. Now, the tenant might not leave. That's where it gets funky. The tenant might say, yeah, you know what? I'm out. Not take me to court. Take me to the tribunal. I don't want to go. I'm not going anywhere. I don't care that you served me that notice. I'm not leaving. And that's where it starts to get really messy. There's some solutions to that. And the solution, the legal solution, right? Hey, let's go through the courts and all that sort of stuff, sucks. So you've got a story.
Long time.
We'll say, yeah, like a year. You've got a story that that
Active.
we'll yeah, active story that we'll get into in the second half. But before we jump into the second half, I'm going to take a quick break, word from our sponsor, and tell us, Kyle, how has it been? You've run out now of Magic Mind. Is your mind less magic? How do you feel now?
Yeah, it's not. I'm not as yeah, I don't like it. I don't like not having it after having it.
Right?
Like I'm getting back. I'm kind of. It's been a week or so, and I'm kind of falling back into the old habits a little bit. And yeah, I'm not as happy about it. That's for sure. It does. It's just enough. It's not massive. It's for me. It's never been a tidal wave of like whoa, but it's just enough. And having off it, on it, and going off of it, it's you see the difference. It's nice in the morning. It's a good routine. Keeps you even keeled most of the day, right? Stick to that, not that afternoon drag. Um, Look forward to it in the morning and just a little sharper. And I'm not currently right now, and that's and especially with all the things happening and coming at us right now. Personally, it's just like holy shit! Like this would be nice to just be a little bit tighter. It'd
Yeah,
be good.
yeah.
So yeah, I do miss it for sure. I gotta get another order in.
Well, they sent a new batch over, and I'll tell you, I had a couple days where I was without. So normally I skip it Saturday, Sunday. Maybe I shouldn't, but I use it for work. I guess is the way I look at it, right? So I didn't have it Monday, Tuesday, and I felt it. I felt drained. Tuesday, especially at the end of the day, I was just drained. And then Wednesday, I was looking forward to it. I knew it was there. I received a note from the office. Hey, it's here. Da da da. Da. I'm like, oh, thank heavens. So yeah, big shout out to Magic Mind. Like you say, it's nothing massive, but it's just that extra little bit that pushes you over the edge and really keeps you sharp, right? What it is and what the magic is behind it, I'm not the right person to answer. But what I can tell you is about my experience. And my experience, just like you were talking about, Kyle, it's different. It's better, right? It's just that extra little bit of like a kind of like a cheat code, like people don't know what it is that you're doing, but you just feel sharper, right? I feel like you can get more done, right? Because you're that extra little bit of sharp. Yeah, big fan. I think I worry. Here's my fear is that I'll need to use the code because at some point our alignment will wear out. I'm so glad that they reached back out for a second one, but I'm gonna get hooked on it. I'm worried about it, and it'll be a business write-off, and you know, it works, man. I don't know what to tell you. That's about all you can say. It's a little elixir, and it's really helps. So big shout out to Magic Mind. If you want, you can get some of your own. 48% off a subscription or 20% off a trial run using the code collective20. All the info down below. But yeah, it's all good things, man. All good things. And today's Thursday. I started back on Wednesday, so not as sharp today as I would have been because you need that 3 days of lift. But after you've had that lift and you have some consistency with it, man, it is nice.
Yeah,
So
use it on the weekends too. It is good.
do
I
you,
do
eh?
try to stay I try to stay consistent with it. Just creates the habit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think you're a dad, I'm a dad. The industries you work in, I don't think there's a day off where it's like, nah, I don't need it. You
Yeah,
always need it.
no, not at all. I keep it in the fridge at work here as opposed to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But anyways, great stuff, delicious, and it's what, it doesn't taste terrible. It's got
No, it's
mushrooms in
good.
it. And I'm
I
like,
actually like it.
you know what? I don't want mushrooms. I'm not a mushroom guy, but you know what? I know there's mushrooms in it. I slam it, no problem, no issue. Um, all right, story time. Let's hit it. Like, subscribe, share. Let's tell stories. What's your experience? You got a deal that's supposed to close when? December?
We've had a deal in the books since December. I think they purchased in October, November.
Yeah.
Supposed to close in December. We are now June 13th, and it has gone through two extensions on the seller's side, plus a meeting at the tribunal, and the tenant is still not out.
Wow.
And there was a cash for keys offer on the table.
Yeah.
And one of the first extensions, when they realized he wasn't leaving, was that the seller was like, "Okay, let's work on this. What do you need?" And he's like, "I need a place to live, guys. Like that's what I need." And the seller's like, "If I find you a place to live and you can agree to it, are we good?" So apparently they did. This is because I only get part of the story from my my clients
Yeah.
who are buying, and they're like, "Yeah," and he's going to be out May 1st, and then so it just kind of sat dead. We've had to rebook the deal, get updated stubs, and rates have changed. Not for the worse, which is nice, but
Yeah.
rates have changed. And then as we're pushing into May, get like, hey guys, like where are we at? What's going on?
Yeah.
Don't know. And it was one of these things where this person knows how to play the game for sure, because it's all of a sudden it's, what do you mean? I had no idea that we even had a meeting at the tribunal. I haven't even seen my 60 days notice. Where has that been? So it's a he said, she said thing, and it starts the clock. It appears. I can't say this is quotes because I don't know that law. I don't. But it's like it appears like all of a sudden the clock started ticking again. And they went to the tribunal. And I think even at the tribunal, the judge was like, I'm not really sure. And left it like literally left it like that. Like, I don't know what to do here. And then so they still don't really have an answer. So this guy's still living there. This guy's still living there. Clients are waiting for their house, and that's affecting them because they currently rent. So their landlord's like, "What's going on?" Right? Because they had to issue notice, but we're lucky enough that they got to stay. And then the seller's just sitting on like he's already I think he's already paid stuff to the clients because the clients have a good bunch of their stuff sitting in storage,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's paying for that because that was their deal.
Just tell the
Like,
tenant to move into where the buyers are living. Just
yeah, yeah, again, I don't know. Like, who know?
oh,
I
wow.
don't know that. I can't think of the geography of it, but
Right,
it's
right.
like, man, and that's just the one. When the other one I had, because I'd never really seen this before. Anytime I'd done this with clients, it was like, I need the N12 and I need the this and the that, right? Paperwork, no big deal.
Yeah.
But there was no real pushback. And but then during COVID, I had a client who had a small rental, and that guy just gave him the proverbial FU and was like, yeah, I'm just not going to pay you. And by the way, I know you can't do anything. So, and that was that. He didn't pay. They were covering both mortgages, trying to save, like trying to keep everything afloat. Had a rough time. Eventually, were able to get him out. I don't know if they just guilted him into it or what. I don't remember that how that story ended. But yeah, he just literally was just like, I'm not paying you. They showed up door to door, and he's like, I'm not paying you. I don't have to. And was just, oh yeah, yeah. So it's tough.
Wow. There's if ever you are that person who's the owner and someone tells you, "Hey, I'm not paying you."
Careful here. I don't know where you're going with this, but careful.
Yeah. Hey, what I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this and I'll record it. Come and talk to me and ask me a question and I'll tell you how you can solve it. There is a way. It's not a way that I'm going to record on this podcast and post it, but there is a way. When uh, suffice it to say that when rules and regulations aren't being followed and it's negatively impacting one person, then that person doesn't necessarily have to follow the rules and regulations. How's that? Leave
This
it at
is
that.
yeah. So, anyways, how about that? How about that Edmonton Oilers game the other night?
Hey,
Woo!
so yeah, it is. There are always solutions. Sometimes the solutions just don't, you know, like you say that. Anyways, we can shift gears a little bit here. We can talk about something else. This is
Well, what do you have? What do you have going on your side with stuff like that?
yeah, I've got two tenanted properties that I've got listed for sale right now, and one of them, the tenant is lovely, treats it like it's his own house, really, super easy to work with, really good guy, takes care of it, fixes it up. The seller sent over to him an N11 saying, "Hey, you agree to leave on this time," and he's like, "Yeah, okay." Didn't ask cash for keys, didn't ask anything. Just like, yeah, okay, look, I get it, man. Like, you got to sell this place. My rent is not enough to really cover the cost of it. Your rates went up drastically, and you need equity out of your house. I got a cottage. I'll go to my cottage. I got a house, back home down east. I'll go there. I was just here with my kids. I wanted to be in town to be around my kids. So I'll go to the cottage for the summer. I'll figure it out. Retired guy, and again, crafty, takes care of the house, handyman, that kind of thing. Yeah, cool, no problem. Here you go. Sign your thing. See you at the end of June. Or I'm leaving at the end of June. Easy, easy, super easy to work with. Kind, yeah, awesome.
Do you think there's more of them than there are
I
of
want to
the
hope
other
so.
guys?
I want to hope so, man. I really do want to hope so. But I'll tell you, regardless of which kind of people it is, when you're selling the tenanted property, it's still way harder to get a buyer on board to buy it when there's a tenant in there versus if it's vacant. regardless of who the person is that's in there, right? They could be the best, nicest, most amazing person, but an agent's going to look and say, no, not worth the risk, because they've heard the horror stories, right? So it doesn't really matter how great the tenant is. What matters is the fact that there's a tenant in there. And then instantly you're thinking, I'm thinking, well, shit, it's mid-June. I'm not going to be able to take possession until mid-September. Can't do it. I need to move this summer. Versus if it's vacant, way better scenario, right?
So so as the seller, it would be, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm hearing, do all that paperwork stuff, have that tenant leave, and then clean up, fix up if you need to, put it on the market then.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just put it as part of the story. Yeah, it was tenanted. We had them out. It's done. Yeah. And then away we go.
It's a vacant house. You can take possession in 30.
Right.
What the problem is, most sellers who are, small investors are like, man, I got to float this place for how long?
Yeah.
No income? Right? And so it's like, yeah, you know what? That's a cost of doing it. But if you sell your place for $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 more because it's vacant versus it's tenant occupied, yeah, you got to come up with a little bit of scratch right now to ride that wave. But the benefits of it are drastic.
You know what it is? And when we were talking off camera about my situation with the build that I have going on and stuff like that, some of this stuff, it's amazing how it translates where, I'm doing things, I'm doing things and calling in favors of friends and, who know how to do things that I don't know how to do. Yeah. Right. And they're like, yeah, sure. I'll come on the weekend. Right. Yeah. But we got a whole week of no activity because I'm waiting for that guy to come on the weekend, which I appreciate. I'm not complaining about that, but I'm definitely in that phase now because of the timing. I'm like, how much is that worth to me? Right. Like saving that money, or whatever it is. How much is that worth to me? And if I have to be doing the math more, like I have to take my own advice to say, if I get a professional in here that can do this on Monday to Wednesday, it's going to cost me that. But then the next project starts and the next one, all because I didn't wait till Saturday for Jeff to come and do it for me.
Yeah.
So the same thing, I'll be looking at it saying, okay, if you can get that tenant out, yeah, you need whatever it is, $6,000, $7,000, right, to carry this for 3 months. Is it worth slapping on a small second mortgage and borrowing some money to cover it just to pay it back?
Yeah.
Right, in the next bit, especially if you can get $10,000, $20,000, $25,000 more because it's not a tenanted property. Yeah. It's like the feeling is, oh my God, this is scary. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. In actuality, it's like, what do the numbers say and what can we do? Because you can do that mortgage stuff while the tenant's in there.
Call that tripping over a quarter to save a nickel.
Exactly. There you go. That's a great idea. That is a great. I got to text somebody in my community, in my circle. That
there you go.
Yeah.
Tripping over a quarter to save a nickel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's one tenant that I have. The other tenant that I have is, like you were talking about, good enough person, but professional tenant, right? I know
what's up.
I know what my rules are. I know what my rights are as a tenant. You can't You must give me 24 hours. Hey, can I take photos of the inside of your unit? No, I can't. It has my personal stuff in it, so you can't take photos. Okay. I know what all the rules are too. I know how to not get around them, but I know how to work within the framework and make it so that, hey, we'll follow all the rules. We're going to do everything so that you're, all of your rights are respected. Here's an opportunity for you. Here's this idea of cash for keys. Will you leave if someone gives you $5,000? No, I will not. Okay, fine. All you're going to get then is an extra last month's rent, because whoever's going to be moving into this property will not want to keep you, because your rent is the rent that is set from 2017 plus 2% per year. So you know what? You can stay here if you want. You can keep living here. I'm telling you, whoever buys it is going to ask you to leave. They're going to give you a form, and maybe he's the guy who's going to go through like your guy and wait until December. But if you're going to follow the rules, then you got to follow them on both ways. And if we ever get to a point where he says, hey, we're closing, I'm not leaving, then that's a different conversation. Like I said, there's solutions. So I'm a solution-based thinker. How's that? Yeah, so it's a little bit tougher, but we've got the systems in place to allow us to work within those things. If ever I needed, oh shoot, can someone go in and see this place? It's not 24 hours, but can they go and see it anyways? The first guy, oh yeah, sure, no problem. We'll make it work. Thanks so much, really appreciate it. Just makes it a lot more, jovial. Second guy, hey, it's not 24 hours, but someone really wants to see it. Can we go and see it? No way. Not 24 hours? No, thank you. Okay, well, that's fine. You set the parameters. That's fine. I've given them the opportunity to say, hey, here's the windows. Can we book into these windows? No comment, no nothing. So, I mean, there's different people. If you're selling a tenanted property, hire someone who understands, hire a realtor who understands the regulations. Not all realtors are versed in it. Secondly, if you can, get the tenant out legally and properly and not tricking them or not cheating or anything like that. The ways to do it are the only really way to do it is cash for keys, and both parties need to agree. If you can get them out, great. If you can't get them out, sucks. But it is what it is, and you do the best that you can. I always have a conversation with the tenant, sort of recruit them onto the team, give them the opportunity to say, hey, if you want to buy the property, you can buy the property, right? Treat them like real people. Just because you're a tenant doesn't mean you're a second class citizen or anything like that.
I think that's the big thing, is that relationship. I think that relationship, and the very, 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 very little bit I know, and this is still hearsay, of the like landlord tenant act and whatnot, is there's not, like, you can still be, as a landlord, you can still be forgiving and accepting while still following all the rules.
That's right.
Like, where we get in trouble as individuals, especially when we're trying to help each other out,
Yeah.
is doing stuff on handshakes,
Yeah.
which is cool, but it puts you in a really bad spot. It sets weird precedent. It just doesn't, it can go real sideways real quick,
Yeah.
right? And that was one thing I heard. I don't know where it was, but it was like, this one guy was talking about it, saying like, hey, rent's late. You're gonna go and knock on their door, and you're gonna say, hey, rent's late, and they're gonna tell you an excuse or a reason, whatever you want to call it, right? They're gonna give you a reason. You're gonna say, that's totally cool, totally get it. When can we get the rent? Be able to get it to you in 3 days. Excellent. Here's the whatever form that is,
And
and
for
whatever.
and for
The
to say to
Here's
say
the end.
your rent was late. I have to serve it to
Rent
you.
was late. I know. I'm cool with it in 2 days. No problem.
Yeah.
Right. Well, why'd you give me the N4? Because now we know, because we're honest.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not telling you need to give it to me today and kicking me out. You're just acknowledging that that I know, and we had this conversation, and now it's documented. So when you have to rock up to the landlord tenant thing, and he says, I've never been late. And you're like, yeah, yeah, you have. I just let you deal with it. But I dealt with it with you, so we're cool. So yes, you are. Because if not, it becomes, I was never late. Yes, you were. What documentation do you have? Nothing. Starting over.
It's you're so the theory there is that, and one thing that I've had to deal with is I need to not worry about being nice. I can be kind, okay? And what you explained in terms of serving the notice and still doing, that's a kind thing to do, right? But a lot of the times I want to be nice because I want people to
Yes.
like me, right? Oh, hey, yeah, no worries, don't worry about it. I have to give you any form. That's not being kind. It's being nice, right? And the nice guys get walked all over. You can be kind, but it doesn't mean that you have to be nice, right? Originally, the word nice, you know where it came from? It was a French word. It was derived from the French word for foolish. So I'm okay to be kind. I don't have to be nice. So that's my hot
That's a
take.
good end. It's a very good ending, and it's a good distinction. I like that.
Yeah.
I like
So
that.
it is a good ending. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone you think might like this conversation. You can download the buyer or seller guides below. You can also get down below collective 20 for your Magic Mind subscription. You can get 48% off a subscription or 20% off a one-time try. You can also download the buyer seller guides. I've already said that. You can book an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.
Nice.